It is undeniable that there's a lot of pressure on Pokemon Scarlet and Violet, okay? Like, these games have to deliver, especially after fans patiently sat through Let's Go and Sword and Shield, both titles that made some gains, but not revolutionizing the Pokemon franchise in the same way that Nintendo's other IP have seen major evolution on the Switch. So enter Game Freak once again, a developer who doesn't have a perfect track record, who's working on incredibly outdated hardware, and who often makes some very questionable decisions. The odds seem very much stacked, not in their favor. So here we go, the big moment for the biggest Nintendo release of 2022. And if we were going strictly based on first impressions, Pokemon Scarlet and Violet would probably get kicked out of class. Because yep, the opening bits of Scarlet and Violet are so riddled with problems, I was already bracing for how I would possibly explain all of this to you. A 2022 Switch game with unacceptable performance issues, hilarious pop-in problems, and goopy textures that literally morph as you approach them. A game that very evidently forgot the move frame rate and instead learned the move lag. At this point, it probably seems like I'm going to spend the next 15 minutes dumping all over these games. But, thankfully, dear God, thankfully, Pokemon Scarlet and Violet are like any good old bug Pokemon. It might start off as an annoying and unimpressive Weedle, but give it time, and by golly, it'll become something fierce. There are definitely some Kakuna moments along the way, but in the end, my friends, Pokemon Scarlet and Violet are the evolution we've been waiting for, and I sure do love these games. Sorry for scaring all of you with that intro, but I truly was thinking this game should be like a 4.5 out of 10 at one point. I still don't understand how it has the performance struggles that it has, how Game Freak hasn't figured out the Switch after 12 odd Pokemon games, how even the 1.0.1 patch does not fix many of these issues. Yes, I have the day one patch, but I'm going to set all of that aside for a while, and let's just talk about how dang fun this all is, okay? If you've ever played Pokemon, I would bet good money you're going to appreciate Scarlet and Violet. The explorative elements that we all envisioned and imagined as kids are finally present in the real games. Hop on your motorbike dragon dude, run up a giant icy mountain, jump off and fly across a massive desert, bounce once or twice on top of a building and glide down to the ocean. No loads, no barriers, some lag. This is how a Pokemon journey is meant to be though. Boundless, routeless, linearless. It feels so good. Finally, you can sprint through the fields, find a new Gen 9 Pokemon you've never seen, pick up a plethora of TMs and items as you zoom on by, drop a waypoint on your map, reach your destination faster than any regular old bike ever could have. We've arrived. This is what we wanted, this is what we needed, and this is what we hope they do. They've done that part. I mean, remember running shoes? Running shoes. At one point you had to acquire running shoes, and now I ride on Miraidon and Koraidon, just absolutely eating the map up. Your fully upgraded motorbike is a force to be reckoned with, and some of the most fun traversal movement I've experienced on Nintendo Switch. You just gotta trust me. The speed, the freedom, the flexibility on display is the evolution we've been waiting for. And if you enjoyed those aspects of Legends Arceus, boy, are you in for a treat this time. Because for me, Pokemon Scarlet and Violet is twice the experience that Legends Arceus is, because it brings advancement and excitement to the mainline franchise. A franchise that has stayed the same for far too long. Game Freak was really smart to put all of your traversal in one Pokemon. No switching, no swapping, just one. And Scarlet and Violet consistently surprise me with their eye for the convenient. A Pokemon game making sensible design decisions? Yes, that is the world we now live in. But look, the games aren't like unrecognizably different. I'm not trying to sell you a false bill of goods. The games aren't even that different if you list it all out, but the ability to go where you want and progress these 3 separate storylines as you please made this Pokemon far more addictive and playable than any in recent memory. Really, any memory. These are the most addictive and playable Pokemon games I think I've played since the first. There are, of course, the 8 gyms that we all know and love, but they've added massive Titan Pokemon and Team Star bases this time around. Thankfully, the non-gym plots are rewarding and exciting, with the Titans being particularly beneficial, providing those new traversal moves for your motorbike Pokemon that I mentioned before. The more Titans you take down, the more fun the game becomes, because it's stuff like the Sprint, the Glide, and the Mega Jump that allow you to zip across the map, find more new Pokemon, and get from gym to gym in an action-packed way that just was not possible off of Route 1. And zip around you shall, because it's way more fun to pick where you go than to be forced where to go. Nobody likes to be told what to do. And here, they've blended the 3 paths together to keep the game fresh and far less repetitious. That variety is only enhanced by the awesome gym trials before each leader clash. Remember the days where the evil eyes of the NPCs would guide your progress? Now they don't do that, which is a different issue we'll talk about later. But now, the gyms have these amazing tests before you even do battle. Now, not all of them are winners, but man, did they try some super cool stuff. Like bonkers attempts here. Have you ever heard of emotional yoga? Probably not, but I bet you have heard of hide and seek, snowy ski races, an auction minigame, and Where's Waldo. All of that and more keeps you on your toes and fleshes out the world of Pokemon better than we've ever seen it. Like, they truly tried some exciting, different, quirky stuff, and I love it. Of course, the main gameplay loops of Pokemon are all still here. It's tried and true, and it probably won't ever change. Like, the basics of turn-based battling, it's here. You find some wild Pokemon, you battle them up, you catch a few, you watch your favorites evolve. I know some of you are just clamoring to find out if you can actively throw your balls out there, and you can, although it's not with the same result as in Arceus. This time around, you can target specific Pokemon to initiate your desired battle, or throw a ball to hit a Pokemon stuck up in a tree or flying on by, but you can't catch them this way. And I guess it's kind of weird that the coolest feature of the most recent Pokemon game is absent from this new title, and it leaves us with a bit of a hybrid on our hands, one where you've got this explorative freedom, but you're also very much entrenched in like a tried and true JRPG. Personally, I prefer this style, and I think it also makes a ton of sense because the concepts at play in Legends Arceus don't allow for the Pokemon battles to take center stage, and that's clearly the goal of mainline Pokemon. And I guess rightfully so, because the creatures look better than ever before. I've been genuinely impressed with the textures on most of them. Like, they legit look good. And it's so weird, because in spite of the performance debacle, there are moments where Scarlet and Violet will make you say, wow. When it all comes together, when the pokey hair of Primeape is sticking straight into your eyes, this does feel like the very best Pokemon. It's strange then to see some of the opening areas look and perform so badly, because it can go from very pretty to very ugly very quickly. There's a lot of speed in this game, all over the place, and sometimes the floor disappears as you move across. Day and night flicker like it's a bad time travel movie, and I swear, every single cutscene fades away with noticeable lag. I really don't know how Nintendo even allowed this for a first-party title, and I think some of you will walk away offended by the level at which this game suffers. But I'm happy to report, nonetheless, that the more I played, the more that frustration faded into the background until it honestly just went away entirely. I genuinely feel like some of the later areas look notably better than the initial few, but maybe that's just my Roselia-colored glasses after all those hours. Either way, Scarlet and Violet are a totally mixed bag when it comes to appearances, but thankfully, it doesn't impact the gameplay all too much. And thankfully, the new Gen 9 Pokemon are one heck of a lineup. This is a truly incredible class, and there's some absolutely epic designs here. Many of them have a very Gen 1 feel that I am personally quite fond of, and while the starter Evos aren't really the strongest, many of the other new Pokemon, including surprise new evolutions, hit the ball out of the park. Special shout out to Tinkaton, Orthworm, Arctibax, and my new favorite Pokemon, Annihilate. Bravo, Game Freak, you done made some very good mons. Now let's go back to the three main paths I mentioned earlier. This is the focal plot points of the game, the meat and potatoes, if you will. You know what you do in a gym battle. You've done it before. And a Titan fight is basically a boss battle against a super cool new huge Pokemon. It's actually the Team Star section of the game that is the most experimental. This is where the Let's Go mechanic comes into play, as you're forced to defeat 30 Pokemon in under 10 minutes without doing anything. Yeah, one of the most cutting-edge new features in Scarlet and Violet involves tossing out your Pokemon and watching it do its thing. Now, you can do this anywhere, but it's mandatory at the Team Star bases, and I really don't know how I feel about this gimmick, because it's kind of an interesting change of pace, yet it's also completely easy, unnecessary, and forgettable. I wish Game Freak had found a different way to change up the typical turn-based Pokemon battles, because I absolutely love that they tried. I just wouldn't be upset if we never saw this specific style of battle ever again. And after you swiftly move through your 10-minute challenge, which usually took me only 2 or 3, you'll face off against a Team Star boss, which effectively adds 5 more gym leaders, except they all end their fight with the same giant car, bus, engine thing. Like, it's a Pokemon, but yeah, it's really so strange. Also pretty challenging. These bases bosses have brief descriptions on the map to help you decide which order to tackle them in. Stuff like, he's even strong for a Team Star boss, or this is a good fight for new trainers. With the 5 Team Star quests, 5 Titan Pokemons, and 8 gyms, the game does a nice job of providing you with an intended order if that's the way you want to play. But that's not the way I wanted to play, and I feel like Pokemon Scarlet and Violet punished me for it. See, the idea is that you can play this game however you want, in whatever order you want, whenever you want. There's no level scaling, so you may be stopped in your tracks, but theoretically, you could do it in any order you so please. Unfortunately, though, the system isn't really that robust. Because while I love the thrill of beating Gym 2 before 1, and beating Gym 4 before 3, coming back to the easiest leader later on basically destroyed that content for me. You try feeling the thrill of defeating a gym leader that is 20 to 30 levels below your team of Pokemon. You try to not mash your way through that dialogue that is supposed to be ominous and important. It was a one-shot cakewalk for me, and it took away from any significance that these encounters could or should have had. And I'm torn because it's quite fun to just venture off wherever you see fit, do things out of order, impress the heck out of Nimona in the Pokemon League. But at the same time, to get the most out of this game, to truly soak up the content on display, you probably should just do it in the order they've established. Now, does that defeat the entire purpose of this open world game? Well, no, because the best aspect here is the way in which you interact with the world outside of towns, not within. The towns and cities that house the gym battles honestly kind of suck. Okay, some have decent layouts, and the music is always outstanding, but there are 0 indoor areas outside of the tiny gym lobby. Any sort of food or item store is nothing more than a menu screen, and you can't go into any of the houses. In exchange for a big, beautiful Paldea region, we lose out on any of the houses and stores and buildings that previously filled each town. I don't really miss them, but it is a bit weird that the biggest and best Pokemon game is entirely an outdoor affair. I guess there's the school or academy, but even that is a stilted faux interior, mostly accessed via a menu that teleports you from room to room. At least they filled some of these rooms with actual classes, like actual classes with assignments, where Pokemon-infused academia, complete with midterms, finals, and rewards awaits you. I think the game does a really nice job of rewarding you almost constantly, and these classes do provide you with some of those goodies. It's a very nice, fleshed out world. And from the Battle Pass embedded and almost hidden within the Pokédex, the League members that reward you for defeating a specific number of trainers, and the sheer number of wild Pokemon flooding each area, there's rarely a dull moment. I think the most pure aspect of these games is just searching for new Pokemon. And that's what it should be, right? Like, gosh darn it, that's what it should be. The feeling of scaling a giant mountain is so much more fulfilling than anything the wild areas previously provided. And I was blown away to find Pokemon way up high. Tiny little platform, yep, somebody's probably going to be there. Weird, strange ledge that you can land on? Yep, somebody's going to probably be there. They aren't limited to the ground. They aren't restricted. This is open world Pokemon. And that means the Pokemon go wherever the heck they want to. Like, the difference between this and what Sword and Shield were is pretty darn huge. And there's no way I'd ever want to go back to a non-climbable, non-traversable Pokemon world. It'll be hard to even go back to remakes at this point unless they integrate more of this flexibility there too. Pokemon is forever changed, and that is a very good thing. Now, as you probably expect, the storylines are kind of silly. The dialogue is cheesy, right? And there's a decently nice message at the end of it, but it's for kids. My bigger gripe is how all of that is delivered, though, because to me, the absence of voice acting sticks out like a very sore and smashed thumb in the midst of a major open world. It's just very weird that nobody talks. Ever. Anywhere. At all. Toby Fox's score is great, and I'll give a special shout out to the pre-gym battle clap track that really helps build the anticipation and excitement of a major Pokemon test. I just can't help but think this game would be notably improved with a voice cast, and I do hope Game Freak moves in that direction. It is the missing link, especially now that the game is so big. In terms of other improvements, the whole scaling thing comes to mind. On one hand, I'd rather them scale the gym leaders to match where I'm at so that I can truly experience the content in any order. But I also respect the idea of having these high-level areas that are just too hard for you to enter. Part of me feels that the nature of Pokemon, what it has been, what it is, what it will be, can't really achieve some perfect form, a perfect gameplay experience. But they've sure done an admirable job here, working with many constraints to still deliver an open game that is very true to its decades of nostalgia and history, and also moves things irrevocably forward. I do need to mention the performance one more time, because it can be shockingly bad. Like I said, it's just a mess in some cases. At times, the game feels like it's running at like 85% speed, just a little slower than it should be. And the pop-in is egregious, the choppy windmill animations are laughable, and it sure does seem like Game Freak thought this game was going to release on a Nintendo Switch Pro. And if I was reviewing strictly the technical side of this product, it would get pretty bad marks. Luckily for Pokemon Scarlet and Violet though, fun matters too. Childhood fantasy matters too. The best darn looking, playing, and feeling Pokemon game of all time matters too. I haven't really enjoyed a Pokemon game like this in a long time. I'm sort of what you'd call a lapsed fan. And I started off very worried that this was just going to be another wasted cycle of hype and hope. Another wasted entry where I thought maybe Game Freak could, and it turned out they can't. Yet here we are. And I can't help but smile when I think about Scarlet and Violet. Like I said, it may start off as a lowly Weedle, and it surely has its Kakuna moments, but give it some time, and the latest Pokemon games are most definitely a Beedrill. Daring, quick, and exciting. Gen 9 is an outstanding victory. Somehow the Switch just makes every franchise better. The best it's ever been. So buy these Pokemon games. They are great experiences. And for the first time in forever, I've gotta catch them all.